In this video, we will introduce one of 9 key new features added in RED in the 8.4.1 release, available late July 2019. This enhancement is the ability to set the default templates for code generation per target connection. In prior versions of RED, the last used template per object type and subtype was saved in the registry. This meant that it was hard to pre-configure this at setup. They weren't shared between workstations and users. You had no way of distributing them with repository objects. There was only one option per type and subtype regardless of the target database type, i.e. if you had a mixture of SQL Server and Snowflake targets, you only could set the default for one. From 8.4.1, the routine generation defaults are defined for each target connection. That means they can be set up during repository setup. The defaults are available even from the first object generated. There's consistency for all users and workstations. They can be distributed with a connection via an application or import. Unique sets can be defined for different connections, and they can be leveraged to auto-generate routines for applications deployed with ADM. So if I swap now to RED and we open up the properties of a connection, you can see here we've got this new screen called Routine Templates. So that means for each object and subtype you can set the default update template and the default custom update template for that object type. But I'll add a default for standard stage tables and for data vault stage tables. So all my other options I've already set. So to leverage that, if I create a new object, so I've got a load table in my Snowflake target. So if I browse my Snowflake target, find my employee table and create a new stage table from it, I'll put it in my stage target. You can see here that it's looked up the required default update routine for that object type. So now if I do code generation, it doesn't need to ask me the template, it's already got that, and so I can hit OK. So we'll cover in a later video the core use case for this feature, which is auto-generating of update routines for objects deployed from a 3D application. But it's worth noting that with the extra setup time involved in creating connections, we've got two methods of distributing those attributes along with the connection. The first is applications, and that's the best method. So if I create an application for my Snowflake connection, I've already created one in the past, so I'll just pick it up. Jump to ADM, and I'm going to deploy this into a empty repository, or a repository without my Snowflake connection. So I don't have a Snowflake connection in this repository. I'll refresh that view. So not only have I got my connection, but the attributes of that connection have all been set as well. It's important to note that I already had the template set, I already had the templates defined in this repository, and I already had my extended property definitions, so it was just updating the association and setting their values. There's one gap currently with application deployment where SQL blocks aren't distributed with an application, so that still has to be set manually. So the other method, and while it's faster, it does have more shortcomings, is to use the metadata object import feature. So if I delete this and use the import feature instead, it successfully brought in my Snowflake connection, but you'll see there's a few more shortcomings. Again, the SQL block hasn't been set, but the other disadvantage is that the extended property values don't come across using the import method. So that concludes our short introduction to the new feature of setting update routines on connections. For further information about the other enhancements added in the 8.4.1 release, please download the release notes, which are available on the RED software downloads page on the WhereScape website. Thank you for watching this video.